The Galactic Confederation had watched the stars for 2 million years. Their observation stations floated in the darkness between worlds, recording the birth and death of civilizations with patient, endless attention. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had seen species destroy themselves in nuclear fire. They had seen plagues sweep across planets and leave nothing but silence behind. But they had never seen anything like what happened to Earth, Ambassador. Velith stood in her observation chamber, her long gray body perfectly still as she studied the data streams flowing across her screens. She was old even by the standards of her ancient species. She had watched Earth for 100 years, recording every radio signal, every satellite launch, every stumbling step humanity took toward the stars. She had watched them split the atom and turn that power into weapons. She had watched them walk upon their moon and plant flags in the dead soil. She had watched them send their primitive machines to Mars and beyond, reaching out with clumsy fingers toward a galaxy they did not understand, and now she watched nothing at all. The screen showed Earth floating in the blackness of space, blue and white and beautiful. The cities still glittered on the night side. The satellites still circled in their endless orbits. Everything looked exactly as it had looked yesterday and the day before, and every day for the past century, but there were no signals. No radio waves carrying human voices across the void. No television broadcasts leaking into space. No military communications. No civilian chatter. No electromagnetic noise of any kind. Earth had simply stopped talking. Velith felt something she had not felt in decades. Fear. She opened a communication channel to the Confederation High Council, her fingers moving across the controls with practiced ease. The holographic projectors hummed to life, and suddenly she was surrounded by the ghostly images of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. High Counselor Marith appeared first, his massive insectoid body clicking and shifting as he processed his irritation at being summoned. His compound eyes reflected the light of 1,000 stars, and his mandibles moved in patterns that conveyed displeasure. This had better be important. Ambassador, he said, Earth has gone silent. Velith replied, completely silent. As of 17 hours ago, all human transmissions ceased. More council members flickered into existence around her. Counselor Ifani of the Silurians, her aquatic form rippling within her containment sphere. General Kethri of the Military Council, her scales shimmering with barely contained energy. And finally moving slowly like mist taking shape. The ancient form of Counselor Primus, oldest of all the elder races, show as Primus commanded. His voice like wind through dead leaves. Velith projected her sensor data into the center of the chamber. The council members studied it in silence, their alien minds processing information in ways that would have driven a human insane. They have destroyed themselves, Morith declared after a long moment. It was inevitable. Their aggression, their violence, their endless wars. They have finally done what we always knew they would do. There are no signs of destruction, Velith countered. No nuclear detonations. No asteroid impacts. No evidence of any catastrophe that might explain this silence. A plague, then, suggested Ifani, her voice bubbling through the water of her sphere. Some biological agent that killed them all. Our bioscanners detect no unusual pathogens. No mass death. The infrastructure remains intact. The cities still stand, but there is no movement. No life signs. It is as if 8 billion human beings simply vanished. The council chamber fell silent. Even these ancient beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations found themselves without explanation. We must investigate, Primus said finally. His form flickered and shifted, ancient energies moving beneath a surface that was not quite physical. Something has happened on Earth that we do not understand. We cannot afford ignorance. I agree, Kethri said. I will assemble a fleet. We will travel to Sol and learn what has happened. Morith's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. A fleet? For a dead world? You overestimate the threat, General. I overestimate nothing. Kethri's eyes were cold. The humans were the fastest developing species we have ever observed. Technologies that took us 10,000 years to develop, they achieved in centuries. Whatever happened to them? I do not believe it was simple self-destruction. Velith nodded slowly. She had spent a century watching humanity, and she had long ago stopped underestimating them. They were violent, yes, chaotic and unpredictable. But they were also brilliant in ways that frightened her. "There is something else," she said quietly. The council turned to her, waiting. In the hours before the silence, our sensors detected an unusual energy signature from the planet's surface. It came from a region the humans called the American Southwest, a desert area with no significant population or infrastructure. Projected the data. It showed a spike of energy unlike anything in their records, a burst of power that exceeded the output of their largest starships by orders of magnitude. What could generate such energy? Ifani asked. Nothing we know of, Velith admitted. Nothing in our databases, nothing in the records of any elder species. It is completely unknown. Implications hung in the air like poison. If the humans had developed technology beyond the understanding of civilizations millions of years old, everything the Confederation believed about the universe might be wrong. "We send the fleet," Primus declared, and there was no argument in his tone. "Full scientific complement, full military escort. We will learn what happened on Earth, and we will be prepared for whatever we find." The council members nodded, their holographic forms flickering as they began to make preparations. One by one, they vanished, until only Velith remained in her observation chamber. She turned back to her screens, staring at the silent blue world floating in the darkness. For 100 years, she had watched humanity struggle and grow, fight and build, reach for the stars with desperate hunger. She had always believed that she understood them. Now she was not so sure. What had the humans done? What had they become? And why, in the 17 hours since Earth fell silent, had she not been able to shake the feeling that they were watching her in return? The fleet would depart within days. They would travel to Sol, descend upon the silent Earth, and demand answers. Velith would be among them, her century of observation making her expertise invaluable. But as she stared at the data streams, showing nothing but emptiness where humanity had once been, she felt a chill pass through her ancient body. Something had changed in the galaxy. Something fundamental. Something that would never be undone. The day Earth went silent was not an ending. She realized it was a beginning, and whatever came next would reshape the fate of every species in the Milky Way. The Confederation fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal insects. 10,000 ships spreading across the darkness at the edge of the Sol system. General Kethri stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Vigilance. Watching Earth grow larger on the view screen, 3 weeks had passed since the silence began. 3 weeks of preparation, of gathering forces, of endless debates in the council chambers. 3 weeks during which Earth had given no sign of life, no hint of what had happened to the billions who had lived there. Lieutenant Soren stood at the sensor station, his compound eyes processing data from hundreds of instruments. He was young for a Valkyrie, barely 4,000 years old, but his mind was sharp and his instincts were good. Kethri had chosen him specifically for this mission. "General," he reported, his mandibles clicking rapidly, "I am detecting no change in Earth's status. No radio transmissions, no thermal signatures consistent with civilization, no movement in any populated areas. But the infrastructure remains intact. Their satellites still orbit. Their cities still stand." Kethri moved closer to his station, her scales catching the light of distant stars. What of their military installations? Their nuclear arsenals? Dormant. All of them. Weapons remain in their silos. Aircraft sit on runways. Naval vessels drift without crew. Soren hesitated, his antennae twitching. "General, I am detecting something else. A structure in the American Southwest. It was not present in our last detailed scans." He magnified the image. Kethri felt her breath catch in her throat. Rising from the red desert stood a sphere of absolute blackness. 3 kilometers in diameter. Around it, Rings of smaller structures pulsed with an energy that made her scales itch even from this distance. The sphere drank in the sunlight without reflection, a hole in the world that seemed to lead nowhere and everywhere at once. She whispered, "Unknown, General. But it is the only source of activity on the entire planet. Energy readings are beyond our measurement scales." Kithri studied the sphere for a long moment. Every instinct she had developed over 20,000 years of military service screamed warnings at her. This was wrong. This was dangerous. This was something that should not exist. "Prepare landing parties," she commanded. "Full scientific complement, heavy military escort. We go to that structure." 6 hours later, she stood on the red sand of the Earth's desert, surrounded by 200 soldiers and scientists from a dozen species. The black sphere towered above them, impossibly huge, impossibly dark. The air hummed with energy that seemed to vibrate in her bones. Dr. Veth, the Solarian lead scientist, moved her containment suit closer to the sphere, instruments extended. "The power output of this single structure exceeds our entire fleet's generation capacity," she reported. "By a factor of thousands, possibly millions." "The humans were a primitive species," Kethri said. "They had barely achieved fusion power. How is this possible? It should not be possible." Veth's voice carried the weight of 2 million years of scientific knowledge, and yet here it stands. Before anyone could respond, the sphere changed. A section of its surface simply ceased to exist, revealing an opening that led into absolute darkness. And from that darkness, a figure emerged. It was human. Male, middle-aged by their short-lived standards, wearing simple clothing that seemed absurdly out of place against the magnificent technology surrounding him. He walked toward them without fear, without hesitation, as if an army of alien soldiers was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "General Kithri of the Zorani," he said, and his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "My name is Daniel. We have been expecting you." Kithri's soldiers raised their weapons. 200 barrels pointed at the single human figure. Daniel did not even glance at them. "Where are your people?" Kethri demanded. "What has happened here?" Daniel smiled, and something in that expression made Kethri's ancient instincts scream. It was not the smile of prey facing predators. It was a smile of something far more dangerous pretending to be harmless. "We have been preparing," he said, "for 200 years. Ever since we first detected your observation posts watching us. We knew the Confederation would eventually come to investigate its newest children. We wanted to be ready. Ready for what? For this conversation." Daniel's smile faded. "And for what comes after, depending on how it goes?" Kithri felt her scales tighten. 200 years. The humans had known about the Confederation for 200 years, and they had said nothing, done nothing. Or so it had seemed. "You will come with us," she said. "You will explain everything, of course." Daniel spread his hands in a gesture of compliance. "I have been waiting a very long time for this moment, General. I would not miss it for anything." They brought him aboard the Eternal Vigilance. He walked through the corridors of a ship that represented the pinnacle of 2 million years of technological development, and he showed no curiosity at all. No wonder, no awe, no interest. He moved like someone walking through a museum, surrounded by primitive artifacts of a bygone age. In the interrogation chamber, sat across from Kethri and a panel of senior officers. His eyes met hers without flinching. "The structure on Earth," she began. "What is it?" "We call it the Ascension Engine." Daniel folded his hands on the table. 3 years ago, we activated it. Every human being on Earth, all 8 billion of us, was uploaded into a quantum substrate. We exist now as pure consciousness, merged with technology so advanced that your entire confederation could not replicate it in 1,000,000 years. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. "That is not possible," General Morvan of the Volcari contingent finally said. "Consciousness transfer on that scale, as the processing power required alone would exceed anything your civilization has ever achieved." Daniel interrupted. "Yes, we know. We succeeded where you failed, where every elder race failed. How? Daniel leaned forward, and for the first time, something like emotion crossed his face. Something cold and hard and utterly determined. "'Cause we knew what was coming," he said. "We knew the Confederation's true purpose. We knew what happened to species that resisted your control, and we decided that we would not be another name on your list of extinctions." He stood, and though every weapon in the room tracked him, he showed no fear. "Go back to your council, General. Tell them what you have learned. And tell them this: humanity is no longer a species to be absorbed or eliminated. We are something new. Something that will change the galaxy forever." He walked to the door, which opened at his approach, though no one had commanded it. "You have 1 year to decide whether that change happens peacefully or not." Then he was gone, and when they searched the ship, they found no trace of him anywhere, as if he had never existed at all. The Confederation High Council had not held an emergency session in 50,000 years. The great circular chamber on the council world of Nathara had sat empty for generations, its holographic projectors gathering dust, its ancient systems sleeping in patient silence. Now, every seat was filled. Representatives from 17 elder species had gathered, their holographic forms flickering around the chamber like ghosts from a forgotten age. The weight of 2 million years of history pressed down upon them all. Ambassador Velith stood at the center of the chamber, presenting the evidence her fleet had gathered. She showed them the black sphere of the Ascension engine. She showed them the energy readings that defied all known physics. She showed them the recorded image of Daniel, the human who was not quite human anymore, delivering his ultimatum with perfect confidence. 8 billion minds, she said, merged into a single quantum consciousness. Technology that exceeds anything in our databases. And a warning that we have 1 year to choose peace or face the consequences. High Counselor Morith rose from his seat, his insectoid body clicking with agitation. "This is absurd. The humans were primitives. They had barely left their own planet. How could they possibly have developed technology beyond our understanding?" "And yet they have," Velith replied. "I saw it with my own eyes, Counselor. I felt it in my bones. Whatever the humans have become, they are no longer the species we observed for 3 centuries. Then we must destroy them," Morith declared. "Before they grow stronger, before they spread beyond their system. Deploy the Extinction Fleet. Sterilize Sol. End this threat while we still can." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Extinction Fleet had been used 17 times in the past 100,000 years, eliminating species that threatened the Confederation's order. It was the ultimate expression of elder race power. The final solution to any problem that could not be solved through diplomacy or integration. "You do not understand," Velith said, her voice cutting through the noise. "Their technology makes our weapons look like children's toys. If we attack, we may trigger the very catastrophe we seek to prevent." "You have grown soft." Ambassador Morith's compound eyes glittered with contempt. "A century of watching these humans has clouded your judgment. They are insects compared to us. They always have been. Then explain how insects built something that our science cannot comprehend." Velith's voice was cold now. "Explain how insects detected our observation posts, which were hidden by the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy. Explain how a single human walked off my ship without anyone seeing him leave." The chamber fell silent. Even Morith had no answer for that. "We should listen to them," said Counselor Primus, his ancient form flickering at the edges of perception. He rarely spoke, and when he did, all other voices fell silent. The humans spoke of peaceful change. "Perhaps we should hear what they propose. Peace." Morith laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "The humans do not want peace. They want to overthrow everything we have built. They want to tear down 2 million years of order and replace it with chaos. And perhaps that order deserves to be questioned." This from Counselor Ifani, her aquatic form rippling with unusual agitation. "The human mentioned 17 species that we have eliminated. 17 civilizations wiped from existence. Is that the legacy we wish to defend?" "Those species were threats," Morith countered. "They would have destabilized the galaxy. We did what was necessary." "Necessary for whom?" Ifani asked. "For the galaxy? Or for us?" The debate raged for hours, then days. Representatives argued and shouted and threatened. Ancient alliances frayed under the pressure of fear and uncertainty. The very foundations of galactic civilization seemed to tremble, and while the council debated, new reports began arriving from across the Confederation. Human vessels had been detected at the edges of their space. Not the primitive rockets they had expected, but ships that moved without visible propulsion, appearing and disappearing at will. They made no aggressive moves, simply watching, observing, demonstrating capabilities that should have been impossible. Then the messages began. On every Confederation world, on every station and ship and outpost, screens flickered to life. Human faces appeared, thousands of them, speaking in perfect translations of every galactic language. People of the Confederation, they said in unison, we are humanity. For 200 years, we watched as your council planned our eventual subjugation. We saw the fate of species that resisted your control. We chose a different path. The message laid out humanity's demands. Full sovereignty over the Sol system. Recognition as an equal member of galactic civilization. And the end of the Confederation's policy of forced integration for developing species. We do not seek war, the humans continued. We do not seek conquest. We seek only the freedom to determine our own destiny. But if you attempt to destroy us, if you send your fleets against our home, you will learn why the galaxy should have feared humanity's silence. The transmission ended, leaving chaos in its wake. Veleth watched the council members argue and shout, their ancient dignities forgotten in the face of this unprecedented challenge. She thought about the humans she had observed for a century. Their violence, yes, but also their creativity. Their destruction, but also their determination. Their chaos, but also their boundless, endless hope. She had always known they were different. She had always known they were dangerous. But she had never imagined they would become this. 3 days after the human broadcast, the council voted. The margin was narrow, barely a majority, but the decision was final. War, the Extinction fleet, would be deployed. 10,000 ships, carrying weapons that could crack planets and sterilize star systems. They would travel to Sol and demonstrate once and for all that no species could challenge the Confederation's authority. General K'thri was given command, despite her protests. As she prepared her fleet for departure, she found herself thinking about Daniel's words. You have 1 year to decide whether that change happens peacefully or not. The year was almost over, and the Confederation had made its choice. K'thri looked at the tactical displays showing her fleet assembling. 10,000 points of light preparing to bring extinction to a species that had dared to dream too big. She wondered if any of them truly understood what they were about to face. She wondered if they would live long enough to regret this decision, the extinction. Fleet moved through hyperspace like a river of death. 10,000 warships cutting through dimensions that normal matter could not touch. General K'thri stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the strange lights of faster-than-light travel swirl beyond the view screens. In 3 days, they would reach Sol. In 3 days, they would unleash weapons that had ended civilizations. In 3 days, the question of humanity would be answered once and for all. Or so the council believed. K'thri was not so certain. She had stood in the shadow of the Ascension engine. She had looked into Daniel's eyes and seen something that haunted her still. Not fear, not desperation, not even anger. Just absolute unshakable certainty. General Lieutenant Soren reported from his station. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity ahead. Energy signatures that match nothing in our databases. K'thri moved to his side. Show me. The display flickered, showing the space ahead of their fleet. Points of light appeared and disappeared, moving in patterns that seemed random but felt deliberate. Ships, perhaps, but like no ships she had ever seen. They're watching us, she said quietly. Should I order the fleet to battle stations? K'thri considered for a moment. No, they have had months to attack us if that was their intention. They want us to know they are there. They want us to understand that our approach has not gone unnoticed. A warning? Perhaps. Or perhaps an invitation. as she turned away from the display. Continue on course. Whatever happens, we will face it with honor. The fleet continued its journey. More signs of human presence appeared as they drew closer to Sol. Ships that were there one moment and gone the next. Energy readings that spiked and vanished. A constant, silent reminder that they were being watched, and still, the humans made no aggressive move. On the second day of their journey, message arrived from the Council. High Counselor Morph's face appeared on the communication screen, his compound eyes reflecting the light of a dozen suns. General Cathri, he said, we have received additional intelligence that may affect your mission. Human vessels have been detected at 17 major Confederation worlds. They have made no hostile actions, but their presence has created significant unrest among the population. What are your orders, Counselor? Proceed as planned. The appearance of these vessels only confirms our decision. The humans must be eliminated before their influence spreads further. Kethri felt something cold settle in her stomach. Counselor, with respect, if they have vessels at 17 worlds, destroying Earth may not end the threat. We may simply provoke a retaliation we cannot survive. Then we will destroy their vessels as well. All of them, wherever they are found. Morth's mandibles clicked with impatience. This is not open for debate, General. You have your orders. Execute them. The communication ended. Kethri stood in silence for a long moment, then turned to find Ambassador Valeth standing behind her. The old Zerani had insisted on accompanying the fleet, her century of observing humanity making her expertise invaluable. He does not understand, Valeth said quietly. None of them do. Do you? Valeth's long gray face was unreadable. I understand that we are about to test a species that has spent 200 years preparing for exactly this moment. I understand that everything we think we know about them may be wrong. Beyond that, I understand nothing. Then what would you have us do? What we must, I suppose. Veleth looked at the view screen, at the strange lights swirling in hyperspace. But I would do it with open eyes, General. Whatever happens in the days ahead, we should not pretend that we did not choose it. Kethri nodded slowly. The ambassador was right. Whatever the humans had planned, whatever weapons they had prepared, the Confederation had chosen this path. They would face the consequences with the dignity of a civilization 2 million years old. On the third day, the Extinction fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Earth hung in the distance, blue and beautiful against the darkness of space. The black sphere of the Ascension engine was visible even from this distance, a wound in the planet's surface that seemed to drink in all light. Around the fleet, space was empty. No defensive perimeter. No weapon platforms. No sign of the human vessels they had detected during their journey. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Soren announced. Weapons charged and targeted. Awaiting your order, General, 3 looked at the world that had given birth to humanity. 8 billion minds, Daniel had said. 8 billion souls merged into something beyond understanding. Were they watching even now? Were they afraid? Did they feel anything at all? Open a channel, she commanded. All frequencies. Static crackled, then cleared. This is General Kethri of the Confederation Extinction Fleet. By order of the High Council, you are commanded to surrender immediately and submit to Confederation authority. Failure to comply will result in the sterilization of your system. You have 1 hour to respond. For a long moment, there was only silence. Kethri began to wonder if anyone was listening at all. Then Daniel's face appeared on the view screen. He looked exactly as he had a year ago, neither aged nor changed. But something in his eyes was different now, harder, colder, more certain. General Kethri, he said, I had hoped you would make a different choice. Surrender now, and your species may survive in some form. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Daniel shook his head slowly, almost sadly. General, in the year since we last spoke, we have not been idle. We have completed our preparations. And now I will show you why the galaxy should have let humanity be. Behind him, visible on the view screen, the Ascension engine began to pulse with light. Once, twice, 3 times. each pulse brighter than the last. "I am sorry," Daniel said. "Truly. But you made your choice. Now live with the consequences." The engine pulsed one final time, and the universe changed. The lights on the bridge of the Eternal. Vigilance flickered and died. General Cathri watched in frozen horror as every screen, every console, every system that kept her ship alive simply stopped working. Emergency lighting sputtered on, casting red shadows across the faces of her terrified crew. "Report," she commanded, but her voice came out as barely a whisper. Lieutenant Soren worked frantically at his dead console, his compound eyes reflecting the dim emergency lights. "Complete system failure, General. Main power is offline. Weapons are offline. Propulsion is offline. We are drifting. Communications? Dead. All of them." Soren's mandibles clicked with something like despair. "General, I am receiving distress signals from the rest of the fleet. They are all experiencing the same failures. Every ship, all 10,000 of them." Cathri moved to the viewport and looked out at the darkness of space. Around her, the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled drifted helplessly. Their weapons cold, their engines silent, their power cores dead. 10,000 warships, reduced to metal tombs in a matter of seconds. But that was not the worst of it, reports began trickling in through emergency backup systems. Fragments of information that painted a picture of total catastrophe. The same thing was happening across the galaxy. Every Confederation, military installation, every warship, every weapon platform was experiencing identical failures. The entire military infrastructure of a civilization 2 million years old had been shut down in a single moment. Ambassador Velith appeared at Cathri's side, her ancient face pale with shock. "How is this possible?" "The humans," Cathri said. "They planned this. 200 years of preparation. They studied our technology, found our weaknesses, planted something in our systems that was waiting for this moment. Our security protocols, our isolation systems. The safeguards we have developed over millions of years were designed to protect against threats we understood." Cathri turned away from the viewport. "We never imagined a threat like this. We never imagined that a primitive species could outthink us so completely." The emergency communication system crackled to life, and Daniel's face appeared on the single functioning screen. He looked at Cathri with something that might have been pity. "General," he said, "I want you to understand something. We did not do this lightly. We did not do this out of hatred or revenge. We did this because you gave us no choice. You have murdered us," Cathri said. "Without power, without life support, my crew will die. The crews of 10,000 ships will die." Daniel shook his head. "Your life support systems are functioning on backup power. Your civilian infrastructure across the galaxy remains untouched. Only military systems have been affected. We are not murderers, General. We are not you." Cathri felt the words like a blow. 17 species. That was how many the Confederation had eliminated over the past 100,000 years. 17 entire civilizations wiped from existence, because they had dared to challenge the elder races, and now the humans had the power to do the same. They could destroy the Confederation fleet with a thought. They could sterilize every world in the galaxy. They had become gods, and the elder races were helpless before them. But they had chosen mercy instead. "Why?" Cathri asked. "You have the power to end us. Why hold back?" Daniel was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, more human. "Because we remember what it was like to be weak. We remember what it was like to look up at the stars and wonder if we were alone. We remember the hope and the fear and the desperate desire to find our place in the universe." He paused. "The Confederation forgot those things long ago. You became so powerful that you forgot what it meant to struggle, to grow, to earn your place among the stars. So this is punishment? No, this is a lesson." Daniel's image flickered, and suddenly it was multiplied. Thousands of human faces filled the screen, men and women and children, all speaking with a single voice. "The Confederation is over, General. Not destroyed, but transformed. Your weapons are gone. Your ability to threaten and control and eliminate is gone. What remains is the chance to build something better. Kethri stared at the thousands of faces. 8 billion minds merged into a single consciousness, watching her with eyes that held both sorrow and hope. You cannot simply change the galaxy by force, she said. Even if you disable our weapons, there will be resistance. There will be those who fight against you. We know. The faces smiled, 1,000 expressions of gentle understanding. That is why we are not simply leaving you powerless. We are offering help. The screen showed images from across the galaxy. Human ships appearing at every major world, not with weapons, but with gifts. Food synthesizers for hungry populations. Medical technology that could cure diseases the elder races had struggled with for millennia. Clean energy systems that made their old power sources look primitive. We spent 200 years preparing for war, Daniel said, but we also spent 200 years preparing for peace. Every technology we developed has a peaceful application. Every weapon we designed can be converted to a tool. We hoped the Confederation would choose diplomacy. When you chose war instead, we decided to give you peace anyway. Kethri felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not know if they were tears of relief or shame.
Ow.
What happens now? She asked. Now you decide what kind of galaxy you want to live in. We will help any species that asks for help. We will defend any species that is threatened. But we will not rule. We will not control. We will not eliminate those who disagree with us. Daniel's face became serious. That is what makes us different from what the Confederation became. We have the power of gods, but we choose to use it in service of others. The screens flickered one last time, and Daniel's final words echoed through the disabled fleet. The day Earth went silent was not the end of humanity. General. It was the beginning of something new. A galaxy where strength does not mean dominance. Where power does not mean control. Where every species has the chance to find their own path among the stars. The transmission ended. Kethri stood in the silence of her powerless bridge, surrounded by officers who looked as lost as she felt. Outside, human ships moved among the disabled fleet, offering assistance, rescuing crews in distress, demonstrating that their promises were not empty words. On every Confederation world, the same scene played out. Not conquest, but compassion. Not domination, but help. Ambassador Velith moved to stand beside Kethri, her ancient eyes fixed on the human vessels moving gracefully through the darkness. I watched them for 100 years, she said quietly. I thought I understood them. Their violence, their chaos, their endless conflicts. I thought they would destroy themselves like so many species before them. You were wrong? I was blind. Velith turned to face her. I saw only what they were. I never imagined what they could become. Kethri nodded slowly. The old order was dead. The Confederation as they had known it would never exist again. But looking at the human ships, watching them offer help to those who had come to destroy them, she felt something she had not felt in 20,000 years of military service. Hope, the day Earth went silent, had not been the beginning of extinction. It had been the beginning of transformation. And as Kethri watched the first Confederation officers accept human assistance, she understood that the galaxy would never be the same. Perhaps that was not such a terrible thing after all.